know that it was
No,
wet.
we didn't.
This person's not blind because they're driving a car. So they saw that there's a driveway right there. And right a couple feet forward is a place to park.
Yeah.
People are stupid.
Yeah. Hello, everybody. Welcome to the Macaw Podcast Universe.
Hello.
My name's Micah Macaw.
My name's Jordan McCaw.
And we exist to prove people wrong when they say...
Sequels are never better than the originals.
And we are finishing up our series on the Ocean's movies. Right, Jordan?
Yes.
So here we are. We're watching Ocean's 8. A movie that I had not seen until we watched it.
Same. Because who else would?
Yeah. Well, actually, a lot of people.
Yeah.
But yeah, I was not really interested in this movie.
Nope.
And I can say that I'm still not that interested in this movie.
Nope. This movie is soulless.
Yeah, well, and that reminds me, I wanted to give you David Sims' one-word review of this movie. He said, juiceless.
Juiceless? Yeah. True.
Yeah, this is like this to me felt like you watched a cover band instead of the actual band.
Yeah, and not like an official tribute band. You know how there's like official ones?
Yeah, there are, yeah.
No, this is like the local.
I mean, I wouldn't say it's that bad, but...
It's really bad.
But it is...
There's not an ounce of fun in this. There's not an ounce.
There's attempts at fun, though.
No, I don't know. They're half-assed.
Well, we'll get into those specifics, but let's talk about who made it. Now, of course, we all know...
Like Gary Glenn Ross?
Gary Ross directed this, yes. And he directed a movie called The Hunger Games. And
The
he
first
directed,
one?
Yeah.
Okay.
He directed a movie called Seabiscuit and Pleasantville.
Okay.
Not necessarily who you'd think would have a very energetic film career.
Yeah.
As far as, like, you need a lot of energy for these movies.
Yeah.
But that's okay. That's okay, because the screenplay is by him and Olivia Milch, who I didn't recognize anything she'd worked on.
Okay.
But at least we have one woman that's in the production of this movie.
That's it.
Well, the cinematographer is Eigil Brild, and he did House of Cards, In Bruges, You Don't Know Jack, and then the music is Daniel Pemberton, who did Steve Jobs, Into the Spider-Verse, Across the Spider-Verse, and the upcoming Ferrari, but actually the couple weeks ago Ferrari.
Oh, okay.
Yeah. And then this movie came out June 8th, 2018. It has a $70 million budget. It makes $140 in the US and $297 worldwide.
Unbelievable.
So it does pretty good.
Yeah.
I think the moral of the story is people like to watch capers.
Yeah.
You know?
Yeah.
We should just have more capers.
Yeah.
But yeah, well, we'll get into it. We can't front load everything here. Not a lot of notes on here. And the first thing I'm going to say contradicts something I said last week when we were talking about how they're like working on a prequel. They are doing that. And if you want to hear our thoughts on this prequel nonsense they're doing, you have to listen to last week's episode. But after the first movie, or the third movie, he wanted to go out strong. And so he was like not interested in making a fourth movie, which contradicts what I had said last week, which was he had been playing around with the fourth movie. But we're also talking about someone who says he retires like every other year. So,
Oh, does he say that?
yeah,
Okay.
yeah. So he said that
I saw that these movies, that's 8 because they wanted to open the possibility of having a trilogy. 8, 9, 10.
Yeah, that makes sense.
Yeah.
Yeah, and that's a fun idea.
Yeah. Whatever.
But yeah, so he said that in 2006 before Ocean's 13 even came out. That
Okay.
he was like not. So I think after that he was probably like, well, I kind of want to work on another one. But then in 2008, Bertie Mac dies, and he's like, yeah, we're not going to make another one.
Okay.
And so then in 2015, they're like, we're making an all-female cast movie. Boom. And then they're like, making it.
Mm-hmm. And now we have it.
And now we have it. And then the other thing is there was a Matt Damon? There's a Matt Damon cameo.
Cut.
It got cut.
Because of...
Well, a lot of people erroneously think that it's because of some comments he made involving Me Too.
Yeah.
I didn't dig too far into what he said, but I think people... Because he's worked with...
Yeah.
Or He Who Shall Not Be Named.
Yeah.
Oops, I have to beep that out. Let me make a note. He's worked with He Who Shall Not Be Named many times. And so I think someone was asking him about that, and he didn't defend him from the comment I read. But I think he was like, I just knew he was a creep, or something like that. And I don't think that was maybe enough to say.
Mm-hmm.
I don't know. I didn't really want to go down that rabbit hole on this episode. But I did want to clear up that he was cut because the director was like, yes, people thought it was because of that. But when you're working on a movie, sometimes you just have to cut stuff because it's not like servicing the story.
Yeah.
So his scene was cut.
Right.
That's really what happened.
Yeah.
And that's all I have for you.
Okay, actors.
Yeah. We got a lot of heavy hitters in this movie.
We've covered Kate. I don't know if we've covered Sandra. What do you think? Have we?
I'm sorry. We have not covered Sandra.
We did on Patreon.
Yeah.
So not on this feed. But she is, of course, Miss Congeniality. Let's just do that. Because, she's huge.
Well, let's talk about their role. Let's go person by person and talk about their roles in the movie.
Yeah, so while watching this movie, we talked about how on paper, Sandra Bullock is like great casting on paper.
Yes.
For Debbie Ocean.
Yes.
Watching the movie, it was like awful.
Yeah, and
it did not work.
I'm a B head.
Yeah.
A Bullock boy, but
the script was awful. It was truly atrocious. So there's always that. And I think the movie was poorly directed. It was so boring. So of course there are those things working against anyone in the movie.
Yeah.
But I also just didn't buy it.
Right.
It didn't work for me.
No, I know. There was just something off about her and Blanchett, and I did not feel like...
They did not use Cate Blanchett. I don't believe that for a second.
They really didn't, no.
They just were like, we got her.
Yeah.
And I hated her outfits. She looked terrible.
Yeah. Well, the weird thing about the two leads, and this, maybe we'll save that. We'll save that little thought here. Yeah. Let's just keep talking about the actors in this movie.
So yeah, Cate Blanchett she wasn't used, and then we have, Mindy Kaling, who is she
doesn't have acting chops.
She doesn't.
Can we just say it?
She's obviously people at The Office.
She's great in The Office, but
and she's written a lot.
Yeah.
And she's written a lot of The Office. She's talented for sure.
Right.
She was whatever. She was not good.
I mean, as is the case with a lot of people involved with The Office, they had their moment in the sun, and the moment has passed.
Yeah.
Yeah. Who else we got?
We have. Oh, this is weird how it is. Sorry, hold on. We have Awkwafina.
Yeah.
Who was not used.
Yeah.
Because while we're watching the movie, I thought, like, how come they didn't get a comedian for this? And I thought, wait, Awkwafina is a comedian. And they're not using her at all. She's not doing anything funny. She's just nodding a lot.
Yeah, no,
she's hilarious.
They did do a lot of jokes with her. They just were kind of like it felt like old person writing millennial jokes,
I guess.
Like the Tinder joke. And I think there was something else that felt like they cut a line and just went to another scene, and she said something strange.
Everyone was like so muted.
Yeah.
In their performance. And I think a big part of it is no one had chemistry.
Yeah.
So of course, throughout this movie, we have to compare it to the other three, because that's what this is. And in those other movies, everyone has chemistry.
Right.
Even someone who doesn't speak English, a character, they always I feel like they even had chemistry with Yen. And they didn't even speak the same language.
Yeah.
And in this movie, it felt like none of them had chemistry. I think part of that is like the story, which we'll get into. But then also is Helena Bonham Carter.
She's in a completely different movie than everybody else.
Yeah. And her character and her acting comes down to, in my opinion, the story, which we'll get into, which is all wrong from the start, in my opinion.
Which we'll get into. Is
it Rihanna these days? Is that what we're calling her?
I think it is Rihanna, actually. And I think it always has been.
Yeah.
I mean, Rihanna can't act. She shouldn't be in movies, period.
But also, had nothing to do.
Well,
click, click, click.
I think the nothing to do thing, I do get what you're saying. But in Ocean's 11, there are 11 characters.
Yeah.
And some of them do as little as like some of these characters
True.
do. So
True.
I think that's a little bit unfair to just say didn't, but I understand that the charisma is not there.
I guess maybe that's what I'm talking about.
Yeah.
And then Sarah Paulson.
Now,
guess what, Micah? I'm just kidding.
She was, I think, of the crew, like towering above the other actors.
I would agree with that. She's always great.
Like, I thought she was really good.
Yeah.
But it was kind of wild how she was kind of running laps around everybody else.
Very strange. And then Anne Hathaway.
She's having fun.
I thought she did great.
I thought she was fine.
Yeah, I would like to actually see her in the Debbie Ocean role.
Uh-huh.
I would have liked that more. I would have been more I think that would have been a little bit more interesting. Because I think when you have like Sandra Bullock on paper, it's like maybe that was too on the nose.
Yeah.
Again, story was terrible and stuff.
Yeah,
So maybe if that stuff was better, I wouldn't even be talking about this.
Right.
But I'm kind of working with what we have. And it's like, let's have a more interesting choice. Anne Hathaway, I've never seen her in a role like that.
Yeah, well, except for Catwoman.
Besides Catwoman.
Where she steals stuff.
Yeah.
But that's different. I don't know if Anne's my pick, though. I don't know who, like, the female equivalent of George Clooney is, except for Sandra Bullock. That makes sense to me. It just doesn't.
But it didn't work.
I mean, I think the problem is with the two leads is it seems like they were told act like George Clooney and act like Brad Pitt. And they weren't told, like, do whatever you want to do. And maybe that's the problem.
Yeah, but definitely.
Because they're just trying to be the same characters, basically.
Yeah.
Anyway.
Richard Armitage plays Claude Becker, the guy. He's Thorin. The guy
okay. That's why I didn't like him.
So he's in the Hobbit movies.
Okay.
Who else am I missing? We have James Corden.
Yeah, and
who showed up at the end.
Hey, folks, if you are working in Hollywood today and you are a casting agent and someone says, let's get James Corden, you run. You run from that production. The guy is no good for movies.
It also made no sense. He's such a baby face, so we know that. But
yeah,
at one point he has this throwaway line of like, I've investigated to Debbie Ocean. I've investigated your father and your brother. And it's like, you look like you're 32.
Yeah,
You are not old enough to investigate her father.
Yeah.
Let alone Danny Ocean.
Yeah.
So I don't buy that.
Right.
They should have gotten, like you said, some like Harvey Keitel type or Harvey Keitel.
Yeah.
Yeah.
It's that was, and he was in the trailer, but when he popped up, I had forgotten that, and I saw him and I was like, oh no, we have to watch him now?
Yeah.
I mean, that's a disaster.
I agree with you. I don't care for him. He's really annoying to me. He feels like a trend. So seeing him in this movie, I feel like it's dating the movie.
Oh, but have you seen Carpool Karaoke?
But this movie's in 2018, not that long ago. But in a way, it's like, oh, you just dated the movie to me.
Right.
I don't think his performance was that bad, actually.
I actually don't think that
I think he did okay.
Yeah.
It's just
he just looks all wrong.
His persona, it didn't work. It didn't work.
He's great as a rat. Was he a rat in Cats?
I don't know.
Anyway. And by great, I mean one of the most atrocious, craziest things I've ever seen.
But I think that's our heavy hitters.
Yeah, I think that's good. Okay, so I think, a box arrived at our door, and it's full of film criticism, and we open up the box, and we have to discuss, as best we can, feminism. Does that seem fair? We're going to unwrap feminism?
Okay.
Does that seem like a good idea? Because I have a few thoughts on this. Unless you want to take some thoughts first. Do you have thoughts on this?
Was the Ghostbusters all-female reboot before this one?
Let me look that up. I'm loading up the Letterboxd app, and maybe you can get started on your thought there.
Well, whenever it did come out, I know it was around this time. Kind of getting into
it was 2 years before.
2 years before, so we're kind of getting into all-female reboots, I guess.
Yeah.
2 years before, which makes me think this movie's already was kind of had the ball rolling for this.
They announced in 2015, so they would have already announced the other one.
Okay.
This one,
so, yeah. I did not see the Ghostbusters one either. I've heard it's not good. Again, I think
I've heard it's good. Funny enough. Yeah.
Okay. They got comedians for that though.
Yeah.
Which that would have but the originals, it's comedians.
Yeah.
But I said this in the last episode. This whole idea of the all-female reboot, everything is so hilariously tackled in that Sunny episode.
Yeah.
Where the girls are up on the plane trying to beat Wade Boggs in the drinking contest, and
because seasons earlier the guys had done it.
Because the guys had done it, and one of them was like, "Why are we doing what the guys did? Why don't we just do our own thing?" And D says, "No, we have to do what they did, but we have to do it better." That's the point. It's the whole point about this. And slowly, all the other women are like, "I'm done. I'm not interested in this." Great.
Yeah. Well, so
it just makes me think of this.
Right.
Makes me think of this, where it's like, okay, we're gonna do another Ocean's movie. It'll be all female. It's like, why couldn't you just have done a heist movie and ended there?
Right.
And it was an all female cast. But why? It just feels like a point. And I guess it's like, what audience are you trying to attract by doing an all female reboot that you feel like you weren't getting from the other movies?
Yeah.
What are you trying to? I guess like marketing wise. Because I'm sure women love the Ocean's movie. You put George Clooney and Brad Pitt in it.
Yeah, yeah.
So what are they thinking they're doing?
Well, and it's complicated because, like, I don't have a problem with female cast, and I agree that they're like totally underrepresented still.
Yeah.
But I just think I do have a problem with, like, again, the idea, like you said, should be, let's make a female heist movie. Like, because they're still having to, like, go off of the shoulders of, like, quote, the man version.
Mm-hmm. It's like, a movie that is a classic now, for sure, is Bridesmaids. And no, yeah. I don't hear people saying this, but it's like, that's like the women's hangover.
Right,
you
right.
know?
Yeah.
But I don't think people do say that because it's just such a good movie, genuinely.
Right. It just gets to be its own thing. It's not like the other day, I was with a group of people, and I said, "Oh yeah, watch Ocean's 8," and they said, "Oh, is that the female reboot one?"
Yeah.
Like, now it's defined as, like, that version of the story,
yes.
instead of, like, oh, is that the fourth one, or is that the one where Sandra Bullock's in it, or but it's defined as, like, the entire, like, news cycle of the story.
Yeah.
But again, I don't have any problems with it, and maybe someone would, like, absolutely vehemently disagree with this take.
Yeah.
But I also thought of like another example of a franchise that did this really well, I thought, was Star Wars, where Rogue One was Jyn Erso. She was the lead. Felicity Jones. I was thinking of Black Cat from Spider-Man. Felicity Jones is the lead. She's the female lead, and it just works within that universe, and it's its own story.
Well, it's not even that. Daisy Ridley's the lead.
Yeah, that too. This is
the thing, and I'm sure that people have discussed this, and there's probably some video essay on YouTube about it, but I feel like this is probably another conversation. But there are such strong female leads in sci-fi and horror. Yeah. That are like everyone accepts.
Right.
No one has a problem with. It's great.
Yeah.
And maybe part of that is just because they're their own thing. And this is just starting from I guess by making an all-female reboot thing is you're acknowledging that the other movies are only men.
Right.
And now
and I think in some ways you're discounting the Julia Roberts of it all.
Sure. I mean, she wasn't even in the third movie, though.
Yeah, okay, maybe. You're...
But now it's like, I guess you're starting from behind is how it feels. Yeah. Which I guess is kind of the ironic thing of the point of doing this is to celebrate females.
Right.
Women.
Yeah.
But you're celebrating them through in a universe where the characters are all men. I guess it's just, I know it's hard to, and maybe you want to cut this out. I don't know, because I feel like I'm not articulating it well. But I guess that's the issue with women not getting the same opportunities as men, because no one's thinking about the other movies as a man movie.
Yeah.
Because it's all dudes. And it's like,
so there's a hurdle right there.
Yeah. and I guess it sucks that you have to brand this as all female instead of just being like, I just want to make a good heist movie,
Right.
and the characters happen to be female.
Right.
Because then there's that other, like an extra layer on it that I think you said that your sister said when she saw this movie was like, not only is this like an all female reboot, they're really trying a feminist thing, whatever. But their heist is they're going to the Met Gala. Like, ooh, they're girls and it's fashion.
Right.
And
then on top of that, I think what makes it worse is, again, it's not like Sandra Bullock gets to do her own thing. She has to act like George Clooney.
Yeah.
And Cate Blanchett has to, like, they all have their analogs.
Yeah. I think it's mostly just them two. I don't really see any between the other characters, but
you're right.
But yeah.
But it's kind of like, well, I mean, seriously, if this movie had them being their own thing, doing their own thing, I think there's a possibility that this conversation would be a lot more irrelevant.
Absolutely.
But it just feels like it feels like I mean, we're stepping at it in this episode, but after Black Lives Matter like really took off, there was this big like scrub of anything that had blackface in TV or movies off of all streaming sites. And so you had things like in The Office when a character comes in blackface, or in It's Always Sunny, how they had this whole thing. But what you're missing about all that is that those like we know as the viewer, and even the people in world know that the thing they're doing is wrong, and that is what the joke is.
Yeah.
The joke is that they shouldn't do it.
That's not giving people, that's not continuing to give people permission to do it. Like, I think that we should not be doing it anymore.
Yeah,
but,
no, I mean, the joke has been told. But it's just funny
like
because
we've evolved past it.
But what they did is they were like, okay, those episodes are deleted.
Yeah.
Or the episodes are removing that scene.
Which it makes me think of the Community episode, the D&D episode.
Yeah.
When Chang is a black elf, but like literally the color black.
Yeah.
Like, but they even deleted that one.
Right, and it's like, so to me, that does not feel like, oh, this is anti-racist and you're like helping further the cause. Because I don't think there was an article about, Hulu hiring a bunch of diverse people and making sure that it wasn't just white men working there,
it's
or
like
something like that.
Up mistakes.
Yeah, it was like, I just remember there was a Malcolm X quote that was floating around at the same time where he said something to the effect of, and I'm gonna misquote it, but something to the effect of like, people will do, I think he said white people will do like anything to prove like to not give rights and to make it seem like they are.
Yeah.
And it was in the context of this where it's like we're deleting these episodes of TV.
Yeah.
Because we think that makes us look like, oh yeah, we're pro all races because we deleted those episodes. Now we don't have to do any other work. And it like lets them off the hook. And that's how like this movie feels to me, where it's like, we made the girl one.
Yeah.
So like, girls, are you happy?
Yeah, when it's like, no one was asking for this. Same with Ghostbusters. Like, no one was asking, like, I wonder what it would be like if they were all females.
Right.
It's like, why couldn't you just make, I mean, Ghostbusters is really its own niche. But like with this movie, it's like, you couldn't have just made a like straight up heist movie?
Yeah.
So that's why I think of Bridesmaids, which is like a good example.
Yeah, it's a great example.
Because no one even thinks about it in that way. It's just a good movie.
Yeah.
And everyone's great in it, and the story is great, and but they're not, the whole movie, they're not trying to do anything better than men.
Yeah.
It's just a hilarious story.
Right. Because they're not carbon copying.
No. They're doing their own thing.
They're doing their own movies. Because it's really not the same like plot or anything of Hangover.
No, and like I said, no one even really talks about it. And that's like the best, that's kind of what I'm getting at.
But anyway, I mean, I acknowledge that maybe some of the stuff I said is not totally accurate. It's what I think and imagine, but maybe you'd call me on it and you'd be like, actually, Micah, this is, you're way off there. I'd be happy to hear that.
Yeah.
But yeah, as far as this movie is concerned, it also, I mean, I think a bigger issue is like, I just read, I'm sure there's plenty of women that worked in like production and stuff like that, but it's like I read the cinematographer,
the main players,
like it's directed by a man. You know what I mean?
Yeah,
and that's okay. I don't think that that's bad. But we're still living in a world where like 3 Marvel movies have been directed by women, I think.
Yeah.
Or maybe 4. I think 4 now.
Yeah.
And that's not even half.
Yeah.
So it's kind of like, I don't know, making an all-female cast and having one woman in like the main creative team. I don't think that that's necessarily like doing the female Oceans.
Yeah.
I honestly would feel if it was like woman did the music, woman did cinematography, woman did the directing, I think I'd be like, well, okay. They like put their money where their mouth is.
Yeah.
But they're still producers like, well, we can't like go all the way on this, right?
Yeah.
That's how it feels to me.
Yeah.
And now that we stepped in it hard, should we get into the plot?
Yeah.
Or do you have some more to say about that?
Probably throughout talking about it, I feel like I didn't represent myself well, but I feel like anyone feels that way when they're being recorded.
I know.
And talking about this stuff.
I know. We're talking about a little scary subject, but let's put it on record. Pro women.
Yeah. As a woman, pro women. I mean, if you're a long listener of this podcast, you know a lot of my gripes a lot of the times are
anti-women gripes.
Huh?
Or gripes, or no, that's not a correct way of putting it.
Just how women are portrayed in cinema.
Yeah.
How it's often sexist. And many of the franchises we've covered.
And as a man, I'm pro-women.
Yep.
All right.
I feel like we're digging ourselves into a deeper hole. So, right off the bat, this movie should have started. It would have been more interesting if it was started with the James Corden character.
Yeah. Can you just pitch this all the way? Because I love this pitch you have.
So, the last like 15 minutes, it's like our denouement, but kind of. It is because it's after
Frenchie.
our climax. But
did you hear me? I called you Frenchie.
Yeah, and now you got to apologize to the French.
I will, because lovely people, lovely place. Sorry, guys.
But he is an insurance agent, and he comes in at the end because they discover that the necklace that was meant to be stolen is actually stolen.
Yeah.
So he needs to come in and investigate this. And he, throughout this last part of the movie, is investigating it. And he's interviewing certain people, certain players. And this should have been the movie.
Absolutely.
This should have been our premise, like how it was started and kicked off. Because we have to compare it to the other ones.
Yeah.
And, it's like, the format's so fun because it's a heist movie.
Yeah.
None of the other 3 are like this, or like that kind of format. So that would have been an interesting format. And maybe as he's investigating it, he is, of course, eventually he gets to Sandra Bullock and like is really suspicious of her, knows she's a criminal, knows that she works with these other people who were there who were criminals, but he can't prove anything. And through his investigation, it tells us how the heist happened.
Yeah.
That would be fun.
Absolutely.
Another thing I think this movie does poorly, I think is just bad, is all of the characters seemingly have never done a heist before. Besides Cate Blanchett and Sandra Bullock.
Yeah.
That's how it seems. They seem like they're really getting people they've never met, or they know
Sarah
through
Paulson has definitely ripped people off.
So those 3 people. She's like, yeah. So
and Awkwafina does swipe stuff from
that
people.
doesn't count.
It does, because that's what Matt Damon did before he joined.
I know. I'm just saying all of these people seem to know each other through third party.
Yeah.
Besides those main 3, they obviously have a history, like they've worked together. And I know that in the other movies, some of those dudes are like Brad Pitt knows that guy, so that's why he's on the team. Ruben knows that guy, and that's why he's on the team.
Yeah.
But some of these people came in and they felt very inexperienced.
Yeah.
Therefore, there was like a suaveness that was lost with
That's
it.
True. That's interesting.
So and for example, Helena Bonham Carter's character, she's an actual fashion designer, and it's almost like her character was too famous to work for me in the heist. What does... Yes, they set up that she's kind of irrelevant now. She's like, her career is basically dead. But they do make her the fashion designer for Anne Hathaway's character, and Anne Hathaway is made to be like the biggest actress at that time.
Yeah.
And it's like, wouldn't that kind of just be it for you? Wouldn't that like help you out?
Yeah.
Like your what you need is done.
Right.
Like, why do you need to steal stuff now?
Right. Well, it is part of the deal, but
you know what I mean?
Yeah, I get what you're saying.
So there's just like some stuff like that to me just I think because of it, that's where the lack of chemistry comes in.
Yep.
And so I guess the thing that with Sandra Bullock, the paper that she had throughout were names of all of the random little jobs. You know, like in the other movies, they're like, oh, we got to do this thing. Have we tried this thing? You know,
Yeah.
I can't remember the names. So that's what the list was.
Right.
I never could read it.
Right.
And I never saw it.
Yeah.
And what was I saying about that? There's just stuff like that I just didn't think was done well and was just like thrown in.
Well, here's the main headline, I would say. Aside from like, take everything we said, throw it out. And I think this is the headline. This movie is not directed by Steven Soderbergh, and it freaking shows.
Yeah.
Because it truly is, it's a great example. Like, I think if you were like new to, when you make that transition from like kid who likes movies to like you start studying movies, this would be a great franchise to watch to see the difference of like, how come when I watch the fourth movie, it feels like lackadaisical and doesn't have energy? Mm-hmm. And you take out all of the politics of feminism and stuff that we were discussing and just look at like how it was made, and it's just not that interesting comparatively speaking. It's much more like studio, let's get coverage and stuff.
Yeah.
And it just doesn't pull out the rug from under you like the other. I mean, there is a nice twist at the end here. But it is not, it just doesn't have that flair. And then this brings me to another big point is, Marvel, we love it, but it has broken like filmmaking for like the last 20 years, basically.
And it will continue to for a time.
Yes.
Like we're still dealing with it.
Yeah, we're dealing with the fallout.
Yeah.
But everything's got to be interconnected. Everything's got to be a franchise, et cetera, et cetera. And I think one of the big things about this movie that sucks is it is tied into, they have to make these connections to Oceans so that if you're a fan of Oceans, you go, oh yeah, that was an Oceans movie. That's why I came to see it. Instead of just making a movie that's its own thing.
I know, and this movie immediately starts off wrong. And I feel like anyone would know this.
Yeah.
Don't have your first shot her being on a parole board, petitioning herself to get out.
That's the
exact same way you started the first movie.
Yeah.
So you have this movie, and I'll get back into this, but it's an all-female cast, and you think you have this great idea where you think you have a good idea.
Yeah.
And what you're going to do is the exact same thing as the other ones.
Yeah.
Why don't you do something new and different?
I know, it's crazy, and it's just this weird. I mean, there's also this whole thing that I think we have comics to blame for, which is like everything is familial, or maybe it's like a Greek tragedy somewhere or something. But it's like there can just be a thief that exists, and like my sister works at a salon. She owns a salon. She's a hairdresser. Guess what? I'm not. Mm-hmm. And I never have done that. My parents never did that. Like it doesn't have to. Not everything has to be like a familial trade. Mm-hmm. So now they're gonna make a prequel movie about Danny's parents, and they're thieves too.
F off with that.
And there's fun stuff in the other movies with Linus and his parents. I think it's fine to do it sometimes, but now we're getting into, and I've said this in the last episode, like a John Wick world where it's like everybody is a thief.
Yeah, at some point in probably movie 2, you're like, oh, so everyone's an assassin? How does this world work?
Right.
Yeah.
And that's fun. That works for John Wick. I love that. But yeah, it's just kind of a weird like obsession with film franchises, which is what our whole podcast is about.
So not only do you start it off the same as the other ones, the first one, and she gets out of prison, you're telling us that Danny Ocean is dead?
Yeah.
And of course you're like, well, no, he's not. He's going to show up. That'll be the George Clooney cameo. You're assuming.
Yeah.
And then the movie ends, and she's back at his burial site. And it's like, oh, okay, this is when he shows up. Never does. No post-credit scene, nothing. And it's like, why does he have to be dead?
Yeah.
What? Why do we have to talk about him? Like, why do we have to talk about him in that way?
If he's dead, it's like, well, was he murdered? Because like he's not like old.
No.
He's older. Did he have a cardiac arrest event? Like, what happened?
Yeah.
And it just feels like bogging it down to even bring him up.
Yeah. And it's like, is it supposed to be like she's carrying on his legacy, but it's like, but she was doing this stuff without him? What are we doing?
Yeah, I don't know. I don't know why that decision was made.
No.
Except for to like tie it into this world. Like if seriously, if you got rid of the Ocean's connections, honestly, I do think there's a charisma problem in this movie. But I think I would be like, oh, that's a like fun, like 6 out of 10 fun movie.
This movie is like rated 6 point something. Isn't that wild?
Yeah, and
I know what you're saying, but I'm saying because it's attached to the other ones, it's like too high.
Since it's attached to the other ones, it's like, well, this is like a 4.
Yeah.
Because it does not have the flair or the excitement. But you could have just done your own thing, and then you probably had sequels by now. I'm confused that they haven't made sequels because it did well. It did really well.
Yeah. Well, COVID happened.
Yeah, I guess, but that was 2 years later. You'd think they'd already have one in production.
Right?
This came out in 2018.
I know, but 2019.
It was the end of 2019, though, when COVID happened, and it didn't hit the U.S. till 2020.
Yeah. Whatever.
Well, yeah, anyway. So, yeah, Danny rests in peace.
I guess. Or not.
So then she's out on...
We get a cameo from Ruben, from Elliot Gould.
Yeah, which I was like, oh.
Yeah, that felt sad.
Yeah.
Anyone who would make a cameo in this feels sad.
It does a little bit.
So it's like, good for Matt Damon that his scene got cut.
I know, that's what I thought.
But she immediately, I thought this was so silly where, and maybe if this wasn't an Ocean's movie, I wouldn't think it's silly.
Yeah.
But she has this offhand comment of, I did something in prison so that I had to be in solitary confinement so I could finally get some thinking done. And this is how she came up with this plan.
I like that, actually.
I don't care for it.
Why? What?
Because I hate everything about this movie.
Yeah, this is like your least favorite movie you've ever seen.
No, probably not. But it was boring as heck.
Yeah.
It was.
It was no Underworld, though, as far as badness.
No.
Okay, thank you.
No.
Thank you.
Didn't think about it, though.
Watch yourself, Your Honor.
Counselor.
No, you're the judge.
Okay. So, yeah,
but she gets out, and
she has a job.
She wants to, like, get on her feet. She does steal perfume in a way that I thought was clever and fun.
Yeah, what she does to get all that, to con all that stuff was good.
Cons a hotel room. I'm like, okay. But then, steals hotel, and then we cut to Cate Blanchett, who's watering down vodka.
Apparently Australian, and that was news to me.
Yeah, Jordan said, what kind of accent is she doing? And I said, well, she's Australian, so I think she's just doing her Australian accent.
And
Jordan
I think I said, no, she can't be.
Yeah, you thought she was British, huh?
Because she's always British.
No, she's totally grade A Australian.
Well, they make some beautiful people over there.
They really do. They
Kinda
really
crazy,
do.
Isn't it?
Yeah.
So,
Crocodile Dundee.
And
Steve Irwin.
Yeah. Okay, keep talking again.
His wife.
So, she's running a scam where they're filling up vodka bottles with
they're watering
vodka.
it down. And I'm like, I think this is another thing is like so Sandra Bullock is introduced kind of doing cool stuff. Okay.
Mm-hmm.
I mean, it copies the first movie. That's not smart, but kind of doing cool stuff. The Russ equivalent is introduced by watering down vodka. That's not that interesting. And it's not very fun.
No.
And then like Aquafina is doing a shell game on the side of the street.
Mm-hmm.
Like, okay.
That's more interesting.
Rihanna like shows up and turns off the lights in their apartment to prove she can hack stuff. That's not interesting. I think,
but then you get into people where Mindy Kaling just is a jeweler. That's it. So as far as I know, no life of crime unless I missed something.
Right.
It seems like her and Sandra did know each other, so maybe there was a little bit of a life of crime. But also, it's like, what do you haven't proven to me? I know it seems like she has a very overbearing family. And all that stuff. She has to live up to a lot of expectations.
Yeah.
But you didn't prove to me that she's like at the end of her rope and is really looking for a way out.
Yeah.
In that scene.
But they have to go pretty quick.
They do. Again, because they can do better.
They can do better. They can. But I mean, Ocean's 11, there's some pretty quick additions to the team where we don't really know their motives.
But remember what we've talked about, what those movies are so good at is talking about things that are off screen, but it feels so real and it really fills out the world.
You are.
And this just feels like I'm left with wanting more.
Yeah.
So I can say that, Micah.
No, I know. I'm trying not to throw out all of the baby with the bathwater, just some of the baby with the bathwater. So I have this note here, and I'm trying to recall which scene this is, but I wrote, goes to gallery, already feeling like, what are we doing here? You go to a gallery very early on in this movie.
They're at probably the Met. And their
No.
flashing paintings. Not the Met Gala. The
Oh.
Met.
Oh. Are those related? The Met and the Met Gala? Okay.
What does happen there, though? She's starting to scope out the place.
Yeah, I think so. And I think it was much like how we're describing it. I just kind of felt, this overwhelming, like, okay, I need like some direction by now.
Yeah.
You know what I mean?
It takes
for this type of movie.
Forever to get started for a series known to be fast.
Yeah. So then they recruit Helena Bonham Carter because they're like, we got to do this fashion show. We got to
fashion show at lunch.
Yes, Mindy Kaling. So we need to get her, and they recruit her. So they've now recruited one person.
Yeah.
Then they recruit Mindy Kaling, which we kind of talked about.
Yeah.
Then they recruit Nine Ball, who her thing is she uses a billiard ball as a mouse and turns off lights sometimes. Then Dakota Fanning shows up in this movie, and they pit Dakota Fanning. They do like this.
They make Anne Hathaway jealous that Helena Bonham might be the fashion designer for her. Which makes Anne Hathaway be like, no, she's gonna be mine.
Yeah.
That's what it is.
Which,
a weird cameo, though. Because, when was the last time you've seen Dakota Fanning?
Once Upon a Time in Hollywood. Well, that would have been after this, actually.
Huh?
That was 2019, I believe.
You just don't see her in a lot anymore.
I know.
So.
No, it's also like, again, I'm not trying to just totally bash this movie, but it just kind of feels like, really? We're trying to figure out who the fashion designer is? That's part of the con? Like, this is just not a very fun con. Because I guess we didn't mention it.
They could have I mean, I understand story wise. It's almost like they're too in the weeds or something. But it's like we got to convince Anne Hathaway to choose Helena Bonham Carter as a fashion designer for our scheme, and Helena is this really famous but kind of washed up designer.
How did that happen? Did you see that?
Yeah.
What? Okay, keep talking to the audience. Tell them what just happened, and I'm gonna
our
move.
Our curtain just moved, and there's no reason for it, and seemingly impossible without someone moving it. And the window's not open either. So that was freaky. But anyway, it almost feels like they could have gotten away with
that was kind of scary.
Let's say you have Helena Bonham, who is one of the criminals. They've worked with them before, or she's like a thief, in her own right, does thievery of things, and her speciality is a Tom Hardy Inception. It pretends to be other people or whatever. It's a little bit more fun. She's pretending to be someone she's not, to convince Anne Hathaway to go with her. That scenario would be more fun than her not being ever a criminal in her life, and it's just going to start conning this person.
Yeah. I was really
it took a long I was freaked out about the curtain thing.
No, we have a ghost now. Finally.
Yeah.
Yeah, no, I see what you mean.
Yeah.
Yeah. I don't have anything to add, but I see what you mean. Then we have Aquafina, which we talked about. She does shell games on the side of the road.
Not funny. They don't do anything to let her be funny.
Yeah.
Because she's often comedic relief.
Right. Boy, was she funny in Renfield.
Well,
remember watching?
We didn't finish.
Yeah. That was for you listeners, it was very funny. I wanted to see that. I thought it had a great trailer. Then we saw the trailer, I don't know, 2 million times.
No, they had a new trailer.
That's right. And it looked really bad.
This looks weird. And then we watched the movie and we're like, this is a Studio Note nightmare of a movie.
Yeah, we put it on.
There's no way Nicholas Hoult narrated this movie until after the third screening.
Yeah.
And the studio was like, audience is too stupid. They won't get it. We need him to narrate.
It was unwatchable.
Yeah,
it was so unwatchable. And I think
it really feels like if you really dig in deep, there is a good movie in there, but the studio just.
But we only watched 15 minutes.
True, but that's how it felt.
Yeah, I don't even think we got to the
what he
trailer
needs to do.
moment where it's the
who cares?
But yeah. Anyway, but yeah, I just remember you being like, how committed are we to finishing this movie? And I'm like, I hate this. Let's turn it off and watch something else. So then they recruit Sarah Paulson. Sandra Bullock makes sure to say
So
that
I was never quite sure what she does, though.
she coordinates stuff at the Met. They get her.
No, not that. Like, why does she have a million Like, why does she have all these products? I'm assuming she's stealing them somehow.
Yeah, I think so. Like in bulk and selling them on eBay and stuff.
I just don't understand what the scam was.
I think that's fine. I think that.
But then at the end of the movie, that was so dumb. At the end of the movie, where it showed what everyone did with their money, and it shows her basically like in a warehouse with more products, and she has like a crew, and it's like, so she just wants to be Costco.
Yeah.
I did not get it.
Yeah.
But she has a life of crime.
Yeah, I think that's kind of fun. And I'm giving them points on the Sarah Paulson of it all. And, mommy's got to go on a work trip. That's kind of fun. Big trailer moment. Gosh, I feel like I'm this feels like Hobbs and Shaw,
I don't know why you're
roles
defending
reversed.
it so much.
Well, I'm not.
You want to see the good? That's
no,
not fair?
I'm really not trying to defend it. I just think it's not like an egregious movie. You know what I mean?
It was effing boring, Micah.
It was boring, and I don't
While
think
I was
it was
watching
good,
this movie, I was thinking I could be giving my full attention to my daughter, but I have to watch this. I'm not joking.
Yeah.
Your sister couldn't even finish this movie in theater. She walked out.
That's true.
It's a bad movie.
Yeah, no, I mean, I don't like it. I don't think it's a good movie.
I don't know. I think you kind of love it.
Okay, I kind of love it. But there's a funny like line where she says like, "Oh, why don't we get this guy to join the crew?" And she's like, "I don't want a him. Hims get noticed. Hers go unnoticed." And I'm like, "Okay, you got it in there.
We get it."
So then there's this funny moment where she sits all the girls down and she's like, "All right, you guys all got here. Here's the heist. We're gonna take this diamond necklace from Daphne, whatever her name is." And she's walking around, and then she's like, "Any questions?" And they're like, "Okay, no questions."
Oh, sorry.
And it's just funny because it's like a 3-minute description of the heist. And
Oh
they're
yeah,
like, all right.
It was so quick, and she's like, "Okay, guys, go home, get your affairs in order." And it's like we all had to come here to do this.
Yeah.
I do like the idea of the person who will be like, let's say, quote unquote, stealing the necklace does not know that they are.
Yeah. I mean, that's fun.
I like that. And I'm thinking like that could be like potentially the fun twist if you did it the other way I was saying. Where the person investigating, is maybe they're suspicious of that person for a while. And then yada, yada, yada. The twist is like he discovered that's what they were doing the whole time.
Oh, I thought of this to add to your pitch.
Yeah.
Okay, do it the same way. But especially if you want to emphasize the female aspect in a way that is actually interesting and not just doing it to do it, what you do is you have this movie, you get like Clooney and maybe Pitt, maybe Matt Damon, and the whole movie they're like convinced that they're the ones who did it. And they're like tracking them down. And you find out like Debbie Ocean, his sister, like made them all think it was him, and her and this crew of girls like did this whole heist. And it was the James Corden, like, well, played by someone else, thinks that they're the ones who did it. He's trying to like get them the whole movie. And there's like a switcheroo. You can't put
all of them in the movie though. That's too much. Like people will not care about the other stuff.
No, it's very true. It is very true.
I think that is interesting.
But do something else with it.
Yeah.
And then it would make it feel like, oh, I understand why this is an Ocean's movie.
Yes. Yes.
Anyway, so then they do their first of the scams, which is they have to get this diamond from like the Queen's hairdresser or whatever. Nobody understands England. They got a bunch of weird stuff going on.
Huh?
And so they get this diamond thing, and they need to get a scan of it. So Helena Bonham Carter puts on these glasses that'll scan it, and then it'll print it in zirconium.
Yeah.
And so they have to do this whole thing, and there's like no real tension.
There was no tension, and it was like quiet. Like they had nothing to say. There was nothing to fill the void, and not for funny. Not for comedic effect.
Yeah.
It was just like, they're like, yeah, but by the time we get to shooting that, we'll have figured it out.
Right.
But
Yeah.
no one had. And I feel like the fix for that is, so you have these dumb glasses that scan it, and you give it to the person who's like, this is what they do. But they're like the old model. We couldn't get the new one. So you got to stare at it for 2 minutes.
Yeah.
And the person's like, well, how am I supposed to stare at something for 2 minutes without causing suspicion? And they're like, you got to do a yada yada.
Yeah.
They throw out a vocab word.
Right.
And then in the scene, it's funny. Or, they figured it out. Don't you think so?
Yes. But I also think, like, the concept's not very smart.
No.
Because it's the guy's, like, getting suspicious that she's looking at something from all angles. That's what she's there to do.
And you're giving someone who has no experience. It's different than Matt Damon's character who wants this, who's, like, aspiring to be a grand thief. But is inexperienced.
Yeah.
This is like, this person yesterday was just like, I guess I'm going to take the rest of my money and, like, be a failure of I'm just going to, like, continue doing fashion or whatever, trying to live up to my name. And they're like, actually, you could commit a pretty big crime.
Right. Well, she does have debts. That's part of why they rope her in. But yeah. It's just funny because it's like the part of the no tension is like, it's not the believability of this world is not there for me.
No.
Because I don't see why it's weird that someone could look at this for that long. And then what's also weird is I'm like, so it's just a camera looking at it. What is the difference between this and just going online and looking up the dimensions and creating it? You have someone named Nineball who can turn off lights.
I know, because at the end of the movie, this guy's going to inspect the thing anyway.
Yeah.
And know that it's not real. No one's going to know it's real to the naked eye or not.
Yeah. But they need the dimensions. And I'm like, but it's online. It's famous.
Yeah.
And you're taking pictures of it with your glasses. How is that different from going to Wikipedia and seeing the picture of the...
I don't know. I can't answer that question.
But anyway, then they need the security system at the Met to change. Or they need to get into it or something. So they put up a Banksy that they made, which is the founding mothers of the United States.
Okay, I didn't catch that.
Yeah.
I mean, I didn't catch
or not the United States, the
Banksy
founding
thing.
mothers, because I think a couple of them were British or something. Nobody knows what's going on over there. Shout out to all of our British listeners. We love all three of you. Let's see. Yeah, and that was another moment where it's like, yeah, okay. Yeah, all right. And so then I have this note. It feels like they are acting, and in the other movies, it feels like that's just who they are.
Yes.
Yeah.
Correct.
That's part of the charm element of this. So then we get Dog Guy, MVP of the movie, our favorite. Give him
oh my gosh,
Oceans 1,
so
2, 3,
good.
4, 5, 6, and 7. Give it to this guy. Tell me all about him.
This movie was so characterless, so gray.
Uh-huh.
And then you give
not
us
literally gray.
No, just there was no color. There, in terms of there's no creativity.
Yeah,
quite frankly. And then you get us to this guy who's eating a messy sandwich over a trash can.
I'm already I'm like, excuse me.
Now I'm interested in this movie.
Yeah. Who's
this
guy?
Is not joking. I am serious.
Yeah, me too.
And he's really into whatever dog that is.
I forget what dog it was, but
and that's how they they bait him into getting into his computer to do stuff.
Yeah.
But boy,
yeah,
that guy was great.
He was great.
Yeah.
You're welcome on the pod anytime.
Please.
But it is funny. The hacking and Photoshop scenes in this movie are far too long. Did you notice that?
Yeah. It's like they're filling time.
When she was Photoshopping, I was like, we get it. We all know how to do this. Okay, let's move past it. This isn't like the 90s where this is novel. Everybody knows how to use Photoshop. So then there's the pre-gala dinner. I don't remember what happens there, but
isn't that where the heist happens?
Is that it? I thought that was at the actual dinner.
Well, what's the pre-dinner?
I don't know.
Who's there?
I don't know. It just says pre-gala dinner.
Oh, that thing. I don't know what that was. But that's when Anne Hathaway meets with Thorin.
Yeah. Oh, right.
Who's like her date for the Met Gala.
Yeah. Yes. And then we see 10 years ago.
Oh, yeah.
And we find out that Sandra was with Thorin.
And he's the reason she was in prison.
Yeah, because
he got her to forge stuff and trade money and
then he sold her out.
Yeah.
And so this is a revenge heist.
Yeah.
To which Kate Blanchett figures that out, and she walks outside and pulls her aside and says, "You better tell me this isn't a job about revenge."
This is
It is
how you know this is a bad movie. We're
scene.
finally getting back around to talking about Kate Blanchett.
Yeah, that's true.
And I have no notes to talk about her later.
Right, right.
That's how little she's used in this movie.
Yeah, but this scene where she confronts her is the same scene that happens in Ocean's 11.
Yes.
Where Russ says, like, this better not be personal. Is this about Tess? And he's like, yeah, it is. Okay, I'm going to walk if it's about Tess. And she does the same thing. She's like, if this is about revenge, I'm going to walk. And she doesn't walk. All right, you're making the same movie.
Mm-hmm.
So then we got the heist, right?
Yeah.
The heist is sort of fun.
Yeah, it's the most fun part of the movie, as it should be.
Yeah, but it was a little bit like, this was the best they came up with, huh? Like,
I know.
Like, they've ripped off casinos. They've made it so that casinos have paid people. They've
paid people.
Remember in the third movie, they make them pay everybody out. They've rendezvoused out in Amsterdam and France and stuff, and then in this movie, they're gonna make someone puke and put a new necklace on them.
Yep.
Or
just take it.
That's the heist.
Disassemble it. Everyone wears it out.
Yeah, I mean that was actually pretty clever.
I know that was good. Yeah.
When that happened, I was like, okay, all right, I kind of dig that. Yeah.
So yeah, that's basically it.
I know that
they poison Anne Hathaway, so she runs to the bathroom and pukes her guts out. To which Sandra Bullock is perfectly there at the bathroom that won't let the guards in because there are people that are guarding the necklace.
Right.
While Awkwafina's in there consoling her while she's barfing and steals the necklace.
Yeah.
Puts it on a busboy's table. We get a tiny little moment with Michael Gandolfini.
Yeah.
Shout out to Sopranos.
Uh-huh.
And then
a show he wasn't in.
No, but his dad was. And then then Mindy Kaling just makes it into different jewelry. They wear it out. They shut down the Met Gala. They think that they found the necklace in the pond.
Yeah.
And we're good.
But then we have the second best performance of the movie and a scene that this guy was so good, it almost convinced me that it was a good movie. Because the guy, when he analyzes the necklace after it's back, his reaction, I'm like, where has this been the whole movie? Mm-hmm. This guy killed it. Because he reacts and he's upset. And then he says, "Dear God." And then James Corden comes in, insurance man.
Yeah. Starts investigating, and then Anne Hathaway is like, I want to be part of your guys' crew. Yeah, I figured it out. And so they're like, okay, heist ain't over.
Yeah.
So they have to continue to...
They have to frame her boyfriend, her ex-boyfriend.
For everything, so that they're not going to get arrested for any of it. Plus, it gets revenge. Yeah.
Which is...
Well, here's something I thought was funny.
Yeah, I didn't understand some of this.
But she brings part of the necklace into his apartment.
Okay, I think you're about to say what I'm going to say.
And then after this is after Sandra Bullock and James Corden had a conversation, and he's like, I need like probable cause. Like, what if I told you that I knew where it is? And he's like, well, I need to search for it and I need probable cause for it. And Hathaway's at his apartment. They're about to do it.
Yeah. Sexually, let's just say.
Yeah, like adults. And she goes into his closet.
Birds and the bees.
Goes into his closet, takes the part of the necklace out, puts it on his tie, and takes a picture. And it's like, this could be a tie in anyone's apartment.
Okay, because that's what I was confused by.
Who's sending the picture? Like, not good enough.
And so you might be thinking, like, you guys are being so, like, detail-oriented. But the nature of a heist movie is you have to be detail-oriented. Yeah. So the fact that this movie like plays fast and loose with it, that makes it collapse under the weight of it.
Yeah. And I don't know if I said on the podcast, I know I said it while we were watching it, but this movie felt like it was written by someone that's like, oh yeah, I can do a heist movie.
Right.
But they've only seen like Ocean's 11 one time.
Right. Yeah.
And that's the only heist movie they've seen.
And they're like, that ought to do it.
Yeah.
Did I ever tell you there was this show, and I don't know what it was called. It didn't last very long. It was on NBC. And I think it was in the pilot. It was some like heist movie. It might have even been called Heist.
That's a show.
Yeah. And or are you
said
confirming
movie.
it? It was a show. I'm sorry. And they just did something so clever. This is what you want with a heist. You want something that you walk away and you're like, I can't believe they did that. But they want to rob this jewelry store. And so they like cut the power or something, or like trip the alarm. They trip the alarm and then stay outside, wait for the police to come. Then the police disperse. Nothing happened. Then they trip the alarm again. They have like a circuit breaker that they're doing this at. The police come again, and it's like the first time it was like they got there in 5 minutes. Then the next time they get there in like 10 minutes. And then I think they trip it a third time, and it takes them like a half hour to get there.
Oh, this is interesting.
And they're like, yeah, if we trip it, like if we just keep tripping it, they're going to eventually just be like, there's something wrong. We'll contact the owners in the morning, like whatever. And so then they trip it a fourth time, and then they're like, okay, we should have about an hour to rob this place or whatever.
Wow,
or maybe
I
it's
like
half
that.
hour or whatever it was.
They were going to do a whole show, and it was a new heist every episode. That's
I think so.
tough. And I know
think
Law and
so.
Order's been on TV for a long time, and that seems tough.
Yeah.
To come up with something new.
But the thing that Law and Order has is you have Law and Order, and then you also have a special victims unit. I don't know if you're aware about
no,
that.
I forgot about that it's special, yeah.
Yeah, just like CSI.
Yeah.
You know, there's also CSI Cyber that lasted 2 seasons.
NCIS.
There's a Navy crime scene investigation. You know, Miami, New York.
Okay.
Yeah. No, Jordan she's throwing her phone. She's so upset. I do like this though. They need to figure out how to move these diamonds. So there's a scene where it just shows them casting old ladies.
This was so quick that I kind of didn't follow it.
Sure. But I just like that they showed that detail.
Sure.
Of them like, okay, this lady will be good.
So
this
they
lady won't be
basically
good.
gave the ladies the diamonds to like sell,
Yeah.
make money. Okay, that's how it works.
Yeah.
Okay.
Which was kind of fun because, you do think about
cast
that.
a lady who is the head of like the St. Jude Children's Cancer Foundation, and it's like, this is so distracting. This lady is an actor?
I don't know. Maybe she was an actor before this.
But man, that was distracting. Was it not?
No, I mean, it was,
And,
but...
no, and I know,
Not-
like, people
I would
should
not-
be... You know what
yeah.
I mean? That's not, like, necessarily a dig against the movie, but it was like, that person shouldn't be in a movie.
It was...
She should be up on the screen with that guy who was a football player, but is now with Kelly.
Oh, yeah. The bus?
I don't know.
I think that was his nickname.
Really?
Yeah, and I almost said college, but and then I almost said high school in the NFL. The bus NFL.
What is that guy's name?
Michael Strahan, I think is his name. Oh, I'm thinking of Jerome Bettis. Who's this guy? That's the bus.
That's who I'm thinking. Give me that.
No, you're thinking of this guy.
Oh, no.
Michael.
Yeah. What's that guy in?
Michael Strahan. Michael Strahan is who you're
That's
thinking of.
his name?
Right?
Oh, I thought he had like a 2-syllable name. You know what I mean?
No, but he is 52 years old.
Oh, wow.
Yeah, he's 1 year
looks
older
great.
than the bus. Jerome Bettis, primarily with the Pittsburgh Steelers. So, yeah. So then they have this is like the pull the rug out from under the movie. They frame the guy. They've got away with everything, but they're like, man, it's going to be hard to like sell this, or I don't know. They say something, and then Sandra's like, well, yeah, we can split the money. No, here's what it is. I'm sorry, listeners. Daphne comes in and she goes, I want a cut of this. And they're like, oh, that's going to bring our cut down. And she goes, yeah, I guess that'll bring our cut down to about $30 million each or something like that. When originally they
And
were all going
everyone's
to
like,
get
"Whoa,
like
what?"
$8 million each or something. And they're like, what? And then she opens up a refrigerator and intricately placed around beer and on top of beer and stuff,
Beautiful product placement. Are you kidding me?
they were able to steal the rest of
Yeah.
the diamonds. And so then it shows, well, a one Mr. Yan from...
Yen?
Yeah, no, it's Yan.
Yan. Oh, okay. I said yen earlier.
You did, yeah. But that's not his name. It's Yan. And Kate Blanchett and Yan, she smuggled him in, and he did his stuff and was able to go around lasers, much like the Night Fox in Ocean's 12, take all of the stuff, the diamonds, and then they had them. You know what? Maybe this movie was just an elaborate excuse for Sandra Bullock to do a Swedish accent because she
German. She's speaking German.
German. She just really wanted to do that.
I saw that she's fluent in German.
Oh, really?
Yeah.
I mean, it did actually seem pretty legit
Yeah.
during the movie. So I was like,
Saw
whoa,
that she lived there for a time.
interesting.
Yeah.
Deutschland, as they call it.
That's what she would call it.
That's what she said. And so that's the movie.
There's just
a lack
it's
of
just
flavor.
so hard to be cool.
Boy, you're telling me.
And-
I've been trying for 30 years now.
And I guess when you have a movie that's an oceans movie,
Uh-huh.
that's an impossible thing
Yeah.
because no one, man, woman, dog, child, is as cool as George.
Yeah. What about Lassie? Because you did include dogs.
Sorry, Lassie.
Whoa, okay.
You got those kids out of
Okay.
that well, but not as cool.
So,
I can't imagine you looking that good in a tux.
but that long flowing hair. So, yeah, it is the equivalent of, when you go to a restaurant and a friend said like, oh my gosh, they have the best like burgers, or they have like the best steak, or something like that, and you order it and you sit down and you eat it and you go, that was okay. And then you look at the price and you go, I just spent $6 on this, but 12?
Yeah.
Oh, of course.
Wow. What world are you living in?
Yeah. And you go, yeah, this is maybe better than a fast food burger. And that's what this is. It's
You're
maybe
talking about
better.
any meal experience with your dad.
No.
You can cut that out. Seriously.
You want me to? I'm saying that I don't have that experience.
I'm saying that whenever you have a cup of coffee with your dad in the hospital, at Dutch Bros, anywhere.
No, coffee is a whole different thing. Yes, and I have called him out on that. He'll have like a cup of Folgers and he'll go, oh, that's a pretty good cup of coffee. And I go, no, it's terrible. It's terrible. We've been having like third wave coffee like every Friday in the mornings. How have your taste buds not changed to enjoy a little bit of a finer cup of coffee? And then it's like, we're at Black Bear and he's like, oh, it's actually a pretty good cup of coffee. What do you think, Mike? And I go, it's diner coffee. It's terrible. And that's why I like it. I like terrible diner coffee. Anyway, you been roasted, Dad. You been medium roasted coffee. So thanks for listening to our podcast. Please rate us. It's the new year. We need those ratings. We got to get big enough that Dwayne "The Rock" Johnson wants to buy our network.
And we'll say, no, sir.
Yeah.
You can't buy this. You don't have enough
No,
money.
you know what I'd say to him? I'd say, paper, bitch.
What is that? Oh my gosh.
Get it?
I wish people could have seen you. You literally crossed your arms and you turned.
Yeah.
Oh my gosh.
Because guess what? Paper beats rock.
And that's going to be 2024.
So next week, we're jumping into The Ring. Gore Verbinski's The Ring. On Patreon, you can listen to our episode on Tron as we do our MPU The Legacy. Yeah, sign up. It's easy. Anyone can do it. You get a free trial. Sign up. Let's go.
Yeah, do the free trial. And then stick around because you're having so much fun.